Have you ever called out a woman's disrespect and somehow ended up apologizing? You noticed something was off, you spoke up, and she flipped it back on you like you were the problem. That's not confusion, that's manipulation. In this video, I'm breaking down the 5 exact questions women use to control you and how to see through them before they destroy your peace, your confidence, and your life. Comment, "I'm ready," if you're ready to see these manipulation questions for what they are. Number 1. Why are you being so sensitive? This question is a lie wrapped in concern. It's not asked to understand you, it's used to invalidate you, to convince you that what you feel, your discomfort, your unease, your boundaries, are all imaginary. It's not curiosity, it's not care, it's dismissal disguised as dialogue. Imagine you notice her behavior has changed. She's colder, sharper with her words, barely available but always online. You bring it up, you try to talk, not with accusation but with concern. You want to understand, to connect, and instead of addressing it, she tilts her head, looks at you like a child who spilled milk, and says, "Why are you being so sensitive?" In that moment, you feel it, the twist in your gut, not because you're weak, but because you're realizing you've just been manipulated. That question isn't for clarity. It's a trap, a setup to make you feel ashamed for noticing the truth. It's psychological warfare. She disarms you by pretending your reality is exaggerated. And this is where it starts, the quiet erosion of your self-trust. You begin to wonder, maybe I am too much. Maybe I read too deep. Maybe I should just let it go. And every time you let it go, you lose a piece of yourself. That inner compass, the one that detects when energy shifts, when words don't match tone, when something unspoken lingers in the air. She wants you to stop listening to it, because the moment you do, she's free. Free to disrespect you, free to test your tolerance, free to see how far she can push before you break, and she will. This isn't about one question. It's about the psychological conditioning that follows. The more you hear it, the more you mute yourself. You stop speaking up. You convince yourself that being peaceful is better than being right. You fold your truth to keep the relationship. But what you're really doing is betraying yourself, one cut at a time, until you no longer recognize the man in the mirror. Stoic philosophy reminds us that pain doesn't come from events, but from our judgment of them. But when your reality is constantly questioned, when your instincts are shamed, when your awareness is called weakness, your judgment gets foggy, and that fog becomes fertile ground for manipulation. Men live here, trapped in situations where they are not allowed to feel unless it benefits her narrative. She's cold, you're being too needy. She's lying, you're paranoid. She's disrespectful, you're insecure. And soon you internalize her script. You become the character she needs, quiet, agreeable, disconnected from your instincts. But here's the truth she never wants you to realize. Sensitivity is not your flaw. It is your strength. It's your mind's early warning system, your body's intuitive defense. And the reason it threatens her is because it works. It sees what she hides. It catches the subtle betrayals. It exposes her games before they play out. That's why she mocks it. Not because it's wrong, but because it's right. Think about the man who notices a change in his partner's energy long before any text messages are discovered. The man who senses that her respect has shifted even before her actions confirm it. These men aren't paranoid, they're tuned in, and society mocks them because a tuned-in man is hard to control. A tuned-in man is dangerous to the narrative that men should tolerate anything for love. Stoic strength isn't silence, it's awareness without reaction, power without performance. And when you embody this, you become untouchable. When she throws, "You're too sensitive" at you, you don't flinch, you don't argue, you simply observe. Because now you know This isn't about you, it's about her attempt to control the story. So you respond, not with anger, not with defense, but with certainty. I'm not being sensitive. I'm being honest with myself, and if that honesty makes her uncomfortable, it only confirms what you already knew. Real respect doesn't shrink your awareness, it values it. Real intimacy doesn't mock your instincts, it honors them. So if the price of peace is your self-abandonment, you're not in a relationship, you're in a psychological cage. And the key to that cage is truth. You reclaim your mind by trusting what it sees. You reclaim your strength by refusing to shrink for comfort. And you reclaim your life by leaving situations where being numb is easier than being real. Because once you do, once you walk in truth without apology, without compromise, without needing her to approve, you become unstoppable. She can no longer manipulate you with softness, no longer weaponize your empathy, no longer confuse you with her tears, because you've returned to your source, to the version of you that sees clearly and chooses courage anyway. That is the man no one can break. Not because he's hard, but because he's aligned. And if that man is you, don't let her shame your vision. Strength isn't stoic detachment, it's stoic clarity, the power to remain rooted while the world tries to uproot you. From this moment on, every time someone tries to make you feel guilty for noticing the shift, for pointing out the disconnect, for choosing truth over comfort, you smile, breathe, and remember, your sensitivity is your shield. Your instincts are sacred, and the man who listens to them, who honors them, who follows them despite opposition, that man will never be anyone's pawn again. And the man who walks in that, who refuses to shrink to keep anyone comfortable, is the man no one can manipulate again. That kind of clarity, that kind of inner power, is exactly what the Stoic relationship blueprint was created to build inside you. If this message resonated, if you've ever felt the sting of being called too sensitive when you were simply seeing the truth, then this book is for you. It's not just a guide. It's your permanent toolkit for every situation that used to leave you doubting yourself. Linked in the comments, this blueprint is yours forever. Once you get it, it never leaves you. The lessons, the strategies, the strength, they'll be in your hands anytime you need them. You don't have to question it. You don't have to second guess. This is the clarity you've been searching for. Don't wait. Take the step. Own the truth. Change your story. For good. Number 2. You don't trust me? This question doesn't come from a place of love or openness. It comes from a place of fear. Fear that you're finally starting to see clearly. When she looks at you with that disappointed face, lowers her voice to make herself appear vulnerable, and softly says, "You don't trust me." She's not reaching out. She's reaching in, trying to grab control of your reality. Because that question isn't a bridge toward connection. It's a barrier built to silence your intuition. You've been observing her behavior. The phone flipped screen down every time she's with you. The late replies, the random mood swings, the moments of emotional distance. You've been tracking the inconsistencies. She says she was working late, but you saw her friend's story. She says she's tired, but you feel the energy shift. And as you start putting the pieces together, as your gut tightens and your mind sharpens, she hits you with that trap. That guilt-loaded, manipulative question, "You don't trust me." And just like that, the spotlight is off her behavior and onto your character. She's no longer explaining, you are. You're on trial for having instincts, for noticing, for daring to question the reality she wants you to believe. And here's where most men collapse, because the conditioning runs deep. You were taught to be the protector, to keep the peace, to never make a woman uncomfortable. So instead of standing in your truth, you shrink, you apologize, you doubt yourself. You say things like, "No, I do trust you. I was just asking." And you think that by being reasonable, you'll restore the relationship. But what you're really doing is surrendering your power, one truth at a time. Let's be brutally honest. Anytime someone demands trust instead of demonstrating it, you're being manipulated. Real trust is not begged for. It's not insisted upon. It's earned day after day by showing up with honesty, with consistency, with clarity. The man who questions is not broken. He is awake. He is alive. He is protecting his soul from being dismantled by charm. But in today's world, awareness is punished, especially when it threatens a woman's ability to control the narrative. So they flip it. She makes your search for truth look like betrayal. She makes your caution look like paranoia, and she expects you to feel guilty for not handing her blind loyalty. But ask yourself this: why would someone who has nothing to hide be afraid of your curiosity? Why would someone who loves you be offended by your questions? Why would someone who is honest need to shame you into trust? The answer is simple: because trust to her is not about connection, it's about control. She wants the benefits of trust without the burden of transparency. She wants your silence, not your scrutiny. And she knows that once you start asking questions, once you start putting the pieces together, she's no longer in charge of the story. So she deploys the shame tactic. And it works, unless you've trained your mind to reject guilt that doesn't belong to you. This is where Stoic philosophy becomes not just relevant, but necessary. Epictetus warned us, it is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. And when a woman says, you don't trust me, she's telling you, don't learn, don't question, just believe. But belief without examination is not love. It's submission. And a man who submits to comfort over clarity will never be at peace. The truth is, trust is not romantic. It's not poetic. It's practical. It's a pattern of actions. It's how someone moves when no one's watching. It's how they handle pressure, attention, temptation. Trust is not about how they look at you. It's about how they move when you're not looking. So what do you do when she asks this question? You breathe. You don't defend. You don't argue. You speak with quiet power. Trust is earned through actions, not assumed through words. And then you go silent. Because real men do not explain their right to observe. They don't apologize for protecting their peace. They don't betray their gut just to keep someone comfortable. Your instincts exist for a reason. They are your body's alarm system. When the pattern shifts, when the details don't line up, when your inner voice whispers, look deeper, that's not insecurity, that's intelligence. And the moment you silence that voice, the moment you choose her comfort over your clarity, is the moment you give her full control of the relationship. And that's when the real manipulation begins. She'll test you. She'll lie in small ways just to see if you'll challenge it. She'll plant stories with gaps and watch if you connect the dots. She'll create confusion, then punish you for noticing. Because a man who's asleep is easier to keep. But you're not asleep anymore. You're aware. You're alert. You're done pretending you don't notice. And that awareness, that terrifying, liberating awareness, is your salvation. You will lose some people because of it. You will be called paranoid, toxic, controlling. But better to lose a manipulator than to lose your mind trying to keep one. And here's what changes when you stop letting that question control you. You start watching instead of wondering. You start listening instead of explaining. You stop begging for clarity and start demanding consistency. And suddenly, the game ends. Because the only way manipulation works is if you need her more than you need your peace. When that balance shifts, when your peace becomes non-negotiable, you become dangerous to every lie. You stop entertaining her performances. You stop rewarding her vagueness. You stop giving her the benefit of the doubt when there is no doubt, only patterns. And then something incredible happens. You become free. Not just from her games, but from your own addiction to comfort. You start building your life from truth, not illusion. You rebuild your standards. You sharpen your boundaries. You learn to walk away from anything that makes you question your sanity. Because nothing, not her beauty, not her affection, not her history with you, is worth losing your soul. And the soul dies in silence, in self-doubt, in apologizing for things you never did. That's the real cost of surrendering your intuition, and men pay that price daily. But you won't, not anymore, because now you see it. You see the manipulation behind the question. You see the pattern beneath the performance. You see the danger in the disguise. And now that you see it, you can never unsee it. So you respond, not with fear, but with focus. You say, if I'm asking, it means something doesn't add up, and I will not betray my instincts just to make you feel comfortable. That's not aggression, that's alignment. That's not insecurity, that's self-respect. That's not paranoia, that's perception. And when you walk in that level of clarity, no one can manipulate you again. Not because they don't try, but because you no longer allow it. You don't trust blindly. You trust patterns. You trust consistency. You trust what your gut has been screaming all along. And when she realizes that her question no longer works, when she sees that her guilt tactics no longer move you, when she understands that your loyalty has requirements, you'll watch her either rise to meet you or fall away from you. And either way, you win. Because the man who refuses to trade truth for comfort is the man who reclaims his life. Every single time. Number 3. Are you accusing me of something? This is the question she throws when she feels the grip loosening. Not because you're wrong, but because you're getting close. You noticed something she didn't want you to notice. You asked something she never wanted to answer. You started seeing the gap between her words and her actions, and instead of owning it, she weaponizes your curiosity. She doesn't explain. She doesn't clarify. She attacks. Are you accusing me of something? The tone is sharp. The eyes are defensive. The energy changes. She turns your search for truth into an accusation of character. You were simply trying to understand, to piece things together, to make sense of what didn't sit right in your gut. But now, suddenly, you're not the investigator. You're the suspect. You're on trial. Not for what you did, but for what you dared to question. This isn't just psychological manipulation, it's emotional sabotage. Because now, instead of focusing on her sketchy behavior, you're caught in a spiral of self-defense. You start justifying, clarifying, softening your tone, backpedaling. You say things like, "No, I wasn't accusing. I was just asking," and in that moment, you give her exactly what she wanted, control of the narrative. She walks away untouched, and you walk away confused. Again. And this is exactly how it works. These are not random responses. They are calculated traps, designed to flip power in a heartbeat. It's a redirection strategy used by people who don't want to be seen, not for who they pretend to be, but for who they actually are. And the more emotionally invested you are, the more effective it becomes. Because you don't want to hurt her. You don't want to be the bad guy. You want to be fair. So when she asks, "Are you accusing me?" your integrity kicks in. You pull back. You doubt yourself. You lower your standards for the sake of harmony. But understand this. Truth doesn't fear accusation. Only the guilty feel attacked by honest questions. The innocent provide clarity. The guilty deflect. And once you see this clearly, once you detach from the emotional bait and look at the tactic itself, it all becomes obvious. She's not hurt. She's cornered. And she knows that if she can get you to apologize for asking, she never has to answer. That's the end game. silence your voice, kill the momentum, regain control. And it works, until you stop responding like the man she trained and start responding like the man she fears, the stoic man, the self-aware man, the man who doesn't flinch when challenged because he knows the value of observation. This is where your power begins, not in yelling louder, not in having all the proof, but in refusing to surrender your clarity to emotional theatrics. When she hits you with, "Are you accusing me?" you don't react. You breathe, you maintain eye contact, and then, with calm precision, you say, "Should I be?" Those 3 words flip the entire dynamic, because now the burden of honesty is back where it belongs, on her. And this is where she will either stumble or lie. Either way, you get your answer. You don't need a confession. You don't need receipts. You need consistency. And if she can't provide it, you already know what you're dealing with. You're not in a relationship. You're in a performance. One where your role is to question nothing, see nothing, and accept everything. But not anymore. Now, you question the script. Now, you step off the stage. You stop entertaining her illusions. You stop tolerating the emotional blackmail. You stop playing the fool who feels guilty for being awake. This is the turning point. Because once you stop explaining yourself, once you stop trying to be understood and start standing in your observations, her power evaporates. She can't twist your words if you don't offer them. She can't guilt you into silence if your truth doesn't require her permission. She can't make you feel like the problem if you've already done the inner work. And this is what scares her the most. A man who no longer fears losing her. A man who values his sanity over her approval. A man who has rebuilt himself from the ashes of betrayal and now walks in discernment. That man is immovable, because he's not looking for validation. He's looking for alignment. He's not desperate for answers. He is the answer. And from that place, the question, "Are you accusing me?" becomes laughable. Because now you see it for what it is, a desperate defense from someone whose truth cannot withstand scrutiny. And so you let her play the victim. You let her perform. You let her act hurt. But you no longer play along. You watch. You listen. You remember. And when the pattern repeats, and it will, you don't confront. You don't fight. You decide. You walk. You elevate. You remove yourself from spaces that require you to shrink to keep peace. That's Stoicism in practice, not cold detachment, clear discernment, the ability to see manipulation and not take the bait, the ability to stay composed when everything inside you wants to react, the ability to walk away when staying means losing your integrity. That is power. And no woman who plays these games can stand in front of that kind of man, because she thrives on your doubt. She feeds on your confusion. And once you stop serving it, she has no control. So when she asks again, with that edge in her voice, "Are you accusing me of something?" you don't argue. You don't explain. You look her in the eyes and say, "I'm observing. And what I see doesn't lie." Then you go quiet. Let her scramble. Let her perform. Let her reveal herself. Because now the game is over. And you didn't win by fighting harder. You won by seeing clearly. That's the lesson. That's the transformation. You don't need to accuse. You don't need to prove. You just need to know. And once you know, you never go back to pretending. Ever again. Number 4. Would I ever lie to you? This is not a question. It's a trap wrapped in emotional theater. It sounds soft. It sounds hurt. It sounds like a plea for reassurance. But don't be fooled. It's a performance. A stage act designed to override your suspicion and shut down your scrutiny. When she looks at you, wide-eyed, hand on chest, and says, "Would I ever lie to you?" she's not opening the floor for an honest answer. She's setting the rules. You're not allowed to doubt her, even when every fiber of your being is screaming that something's off. She doesn't want your trust. She wants your submission. She wants to pull the guilt out of your gut and use it to chain your mind. Because this question is never asked when things are clear. It only shows up when your instinct is whispering louder than her performance. She saw your expression shift when the timelines didn't match. She felt the energy change when your gut picked up on her hesitation. And now, instead of addressing the crack in the story, she throws you a velvet grenade. Because when you say yes, she walks away vindicated. When you say no, she crumbles, not in confession, but in manufactured pain. Now you're the bad guy, the insecure one, the controlling one. But make no mistake, this is reverse psychology at its finest. It's not about the truth, it's about the upper hand, and she knows exactly how to wield it. This question is built on the assumption that you're too emotionally entangled to respond with logic. She's betting on your fear of being the villain, your fear of being alone, your fear of being wrong. And if she's calculated right, you'll fold, you'll apologize, you'll reassure her. You'll walk away convincing yourself that your instincts were just anxiety. But deep down, you'll still feel the twist in your gut. That silent scream that something doesn't add up. That's your intuition, and it doesn't care about how sweet the performance is. It only tracks patterns, repetition, consistency. It notices when her words say one thing but her actions say another, when her stories always leave out key details, when her explanations don't explain anything, and you can try to shut it down, you can try to drown it out, but it always comes back, louder, sharper, angrier, because it's trying to save you. You see, real women don't need to ask, "Would I ever lie to you?" They simply don't lie. They're transparent. They're direct. They don't manipulate you into silence. They invite questions because they've got nothing to hide. But manipulators? They thrive in ambiguity. They thrive in half-truths, emotional fog, and selective amnesia. They don't want to be known. They want to be believed. And they'll dress up deception in affection, vulnerability, and performance just to keep your attention blind. Stoicism teaches that truth doesn't need to shout. It doesn't need to defend itself. It simply is. And once you embrace that, once you stop being swayed by tone and start focusing on truth, everything changes. You stop falling for the show. You stop rewarding tears over answers. You stop allowing your need for peace to override your pursuit of clarity. So when she says, "Would I ever lie to you?" don't react. Don't play the role. Don't give her the script she expects. Just look at her and say, "Truth doesn't beg to be believed." Then watch. Watch how she responds. Watch how the mask slips. Watch how the emotional performance turns to frustration. Because deep down, she knows you're no longer her audience. You're her observer. And the moment you shift from emotional participant to rational judge, the spell breaks. That's when you reclaim your power. That's when you stop being confused. That's when you stop questioning your sanity and start questioning her story. And it's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's as quiet as a single text that doesn't add up, a late reply, a hidden notification, a shift in tone. You bring it up. She smiles, and she asks that cursed question, and in that moment, you choose comfort or clarity. If you choose comfort, you live in a loop, always wondering, always doubting, always shrinking. But if you choose clarity, you break the cycle. You stop needing her to admit. You stop hoping for honesty from someone who thrives on deception. You start making decisions based on truth, not permission. And that decision, that cold, clear decision, will cost you the illusion, but it will buy you your freedom. You'll see her differently. You'll see yourself differently. And maybe, for the first time, you'll see just how long you've been lying to yourself. That stops now. The next time someone asks you, "Would I ever lie to you?" remember, if they have to ask, they probably already have. Number 5. Don't you think you're overreacting? This is the final defense, the last shield in the manipulator's arsenal. It's subtle, it's soft, it's cloaked in concern, but it's psychological violence. Because when she asks, "Don't you think you're overreacting?" she's not asking for your reflection. She's demanding your silence. She's telling you that your reaction is the problem, not her behavior. She's flipping the script so fast that you forget why you were even upset in the first place. One moment, you're bringing up something real, something that hurt, that didn't make sense, that crossed a line. And the next moment, you're defending how you feel instead of discussing what she did. And this is how emotional power is stolen, not through arguments but through distortion. This tactic isn't new. It's been used for centuries by those who want to dismiss without accountability. It's the art of the deflection, the psychological sidestep. Because by framing your response as too much, she's painting herself as the victim of your emotions. She's minimizing your truth to protect her image. And in that moment, your reality is put on trial. You're no longer heard. You're judged, not for your logic, but for your tone, not for your clarity, but for your volume, not for your truth, but for your intensity. And most men fall for it. They retreat, they soften, they second-guess themselves. Maybe I am overreacting. Maybe I should calm down. Maybe I'm the problem. And with every maybe, they shrink. They lose their edge, their certainty, their self-trust. Until one day, they no longer speak up at all. They swallow their instincts. They accept the lies. They normalize the disrespect. Because they've been trained, not to feel less, but to express less. And that's exactly what she wants. Not peace, not clarity, control. She wants to teach you that any emotional response, any challenge, any confrontation is a threat, that your passion is a problem, that your boundaries are burdens, and the more you accept that, the more she owns you. But not anymore, because now you see it. Now you understand that overreaction is just another word for resistance, that when someone tells you you're overreacting, they're not commenting on your behavior. They're revealing their fear, fear of exposure, fear of consequences, fear of a man who refuses to be gaslit. Stoicism doesn't ask you to feel nothing. It asks you to respond with reason, not reaction. And there's nothing more reasonable than defending your truth, than standing on your values, than calling out patterns that violate your peace. So when she hits you with, "Don't you think you're overreacting?" you don't shrink. You don't explain. You don't justify. You breathe. And you say, "My reaction is proportionate to the disrespect I've received." If that bothers you, maybe we should be talking about your actions, not my emotions. That response is power. It's composed. It's unshakable. And it puts the spotlight exactly where it belongs, on her, not to attack, but to reveal. Because if she's right, if you really are overreacting, a grounded woman will explain. She'll clarify. She'll connect. But if she's hiding something, if she's manipulating, if she's gaslighting, she'll deflect, deny, and derail. And now you'll know. Not because she told you, but because her reaction exposed her. This is how you take back your mind. By refusing to accept someone else's label for your truth. By knowing the difference between emotional intelligence and emotional suppression. By learning that you don't have to yell to be heard. You just have to stop whispering your needs. And once you do, once you reclaim your voice, everything changes. You become dangerous, not because you're aggressive, but because you're clear. You're no longer the man who questions his instincts. You're the man who trusts them, who acts on them, who walks away when they're dishonored. That's not overreaction. That's self-respect. And the man who walks in that, who refuses to shrink to keep anyone comfortable, is the man no one can manipulate again. If you're tired of second-guessing your reality, tired of shrinking just to keep her comfortable, tired of playing a role while your truth dies in silence, then the Stoic relationship blueprint is the reset your soul has been screaming for. This isn't another feel-good book. It's raw, unfiltered, and it will change how you see everything: her games, your patterns, and the power you gave away without even realizing it. It's not for the faint-hearted. It's for the man who's ready to never be lied to ever again. Linked in the comments. Yours forever. Comment, "I'm done playing blind," if you're ready to grab it now. Like the video, subscribe, and help more men wake up before they waste years chasing love that was built on lies.